Okay, hello everyone. So this is another video about the good, the bad, and the in-between. So this is basically a list that I made from my own experiences. I'm an ALT through the JET program. I live in Kyoto, Japan, and I teach elementary and junior high kids. And I made a list of things. So I'm here with my dependent, which kind of changes things, but for the most part, this list is very as like what we experienced as possible kind of thing. Okay, so I'll start with the bad and then go to the good and then I'll go to the in-between. So basically, what I got out of this is, okay, bad. Life in Japan. This is how it can be bad. So the first and foremost, I'm going to say loneliness. And this is more so for Jets who have to like live in towns where there's like no English anywhere, there's no English speakers, it's like really desolate. You have to be super duper mentally prepared to be by yourself and not around any foreigners. Like some ALTC foreigners maybe once every 3 months or something. Like for me living in Kyoto, I super duper lucked out because Kyoto's like a super foreigner city, so there's English everywhere and everybody pretty much knows English kind of thing, right? It's a good thing. But anyways, okay, so loneliness. The next is homesickness and cultural shock. So, okay. You know, loneliness, homesickness, and culture shock it can be a little bit better if you're with really good, like, other ALTs, or if you have someone that you can talk to physically in person. Because I find just being on Facebook and messaging each other, that doesn't really do it. Like, you need to have that physical contact with someone to feel really, like, comfortable or whatever, right? So, again, because I have my dependent, I feel like I didn't really get homesick because I'm with my wife and we're together here. And but culture shock, if you've never been to Japan, this might affect you. I've been to Japan a few times before and I really like researched the crap of how Japanese society is, so it didn't really bother me coming here for this time around. But the JET staff are really on top of that. So if you do feel like depressed or anxious or you're not eating right, like there's something bothering you, you can always go to the JET staff and hopefully they'll care to like help you. Most of the time they will. But anyways, okay, so that's one thing. The next is language barrier. So again, if you're in a small town, everything's in Japanese. We're talking posters, we're talking signs, people around you, people at the grocery store, say you're looking for something, you have to show them a picture and like just kind of hope they understand what you're asking for. And like language barrier is a huge thing when coming to Japan because there's other ALTs here that are in Kyoto who know like even intermediate Japanese, and they can read signs and posters and they can say, oh hey, the geisha and Maiko are going to be doing a dance at this temple or shrine at this time. And they'll make a post about it on Facebook or whatever. So that's kind of a nice thing if you have like a group that you can contact someone who knows how to speak Japanese kind of thing. Also, if you're in the hospital, knowing Japanese is a huge benefit for that. And if you don't know Japanese, you're going to do a lot of like charades, which can really suck if you're like in pain or something. Our friend came and he ended up having kidney stones, which was really bad. So luckily we were in Tokyo and the lady we were with knew English and Japanese and she was translating it for us. And so yeah, that's a bad thing. The next, I have seasonal allergies. So this is kind of like everywhere in the world. If you're allergic to the pollen or something, it gets pretty bad here. Like for me, I get hay fever back in Calgary or Canada, but here I also get like runny nose and watery eyes from the pollen and stuff. So the next is bugs. Oh my god, I come from a place in Canada where it's too cold for the bugs to like live, so we don't really have bugs. So here, like seeing cockroaches and beetles and frickin' hornets, man, Japanese hornets that are like this big, yeah, they're terrifying. It's really scary. So next I have super hot and super cold weather. So living in Kyoto, it's in the mountains, and so our summers are like ridiculously hot, and our winters are ridiculously cold. And the humidity also like ups the temperature and downs the temperature. So definitely you got to be prepared, like with lots of sweaters. And sometimes your apartment doesn't have the proper insulation for heating, so you can have like a heater, but it doesn't really do anything. So yeah, the winter can get very cold, and the summer, oh my god, it can get so hot here. So that's another thing. Okay, the next I have, it can be expensive, especially with dependents. When you're only working off your one income. It can be expensive. If you want to travel around and you're in a major city, you gotta save up a little bit more, bring it with you, and then just set that money to the side specifically for like traveling around Japan during that time or whatever. Okay, we have your days. Okay, this is another one. Your days off are the same as others. So if it's a public holiday, everyone else gets that day off, including you. And because of that, if you want to go downtown, you want to go to a temple or a shrine, it's going to be crawling with people. It's going to be super duper busy. So that is a huge difference I found between working in Japan and being a visitor in Japan. Is when you're visiting, like a tourist, you can go to all these places when everyone's at work, and it's the transit system's a lot quieter. And if you're working in Japan, you have to take the rush hour trains, you have to be around a ton of people all the time, so it can get a little bit overwhelming at times, so that's a thing. And, so setting up our cell phone, it took hours, and like we had another ALT with us who can speak perfect Japanese, and she helped us get set up and everything, but like, oh my god, it takes so long to set up a cell phone, like it's ridiculous. Okay, another one is the possibility of natural disasters. This is kind of terrifying to know, like, if you're near the ocean, you could get a tsunami. If you're anywhere, you could get an earthquake. There's just like tons of natural disasters across Japan because it's such a diverse climate. So yeah, you got to be careful with that, and you will get alerts and stuff, right? So the Japanese people, like if you have a Japanese cell phone, it'll alert you if incoming earthquake, for an incoming earthquake. And even the other day that happened where our phone all beeped at the same time. And then we looked at it, and then it was like incoming earthquake. And so you're just like bracing yourself. You're like, oh God, what's going to happen? And then it's just like a little bit of a shake. So we lucked out. But anyway, so that's a thing. And for bad. Okay, so dealing with the bank back home. Because of the time difference between Japan and wherever you come from, dealing with issues where you have to talk to people over the phone can be difficult. I had to buy a phone card from the convenience store and use it to call back to Canada to unlock my bank account because fraudulent, blah, blah, blah. My bank's like that. So anyways, it took like 2 weeks to get a hold of the right person because of the hour difference. Like, it was so difficult. Okay, the next one is you have to pay for a doctor's visit. I'm the spoiled Canadian who never had to pay for a doctor visit until now. So that's a thing that I had a cold and I got tested for the flu, and like it just, ugh, it sucked. I had to give him my money. I mean, it's not that expensive, but still, grr. Which I don't mind paying for medical things. I love doctors and the work that they do, but like, yeah, insurance should cover it. But anyways, okay, so the next one is Japan is extremely convenient. Why did I write that as a bad thing? Maybe you go home and then you're like, man, everything sucks. Japan's better. I don't know. Oh, I got this mixed up. Okay, never mind. Okay, so here's another thing that can be bad is that, like, oh, that's what it means. Okay, Japan is super convenient because you can order something off Amazon and you can pay for it at your door. You can pay for it at the convenience store and you will get it like the next day or like within a few days, super duper quick. And you can end up buying more than what you should. So that's kind of like the bad thing from that. Okay, so anyways, let's get on to the good. because there are plenty of good things about living in Japan. First is you learn independence. So yeah, you're living on your own. For the first time, there's a lot of Jets out here who are living on their own for the first time, which is great, and they're learning like how to fend for themselves kind of thing and independence and stuff. In my situation, I've been renting and we've been living on our own for 10 years now, so this isn't really new to us, but for other Jets, it's totally their first step into adulthood or whatever, and they're just like excited about it. The next good thing about living in Japan is a very healthy lifestyle. So, oh man, I have learned so much about health while being here in Japan. First of all, public transit is godly. So you're walking around everywhere, you're taking transit, you're biking, because the weather is like okay enough that you can bike, and like you're being way more physically active than you would be maybe back home. No, that's just me. I was like so lazy back home. Well, no, in Canada, the way it's built, it's like really spread out, so you have to drive, and our public transit system like kind of sucks. So that's why I'm saying like it's better here in Japan. But also the next one I have is incredible fresh food. So basically, the food that you get is super fresh, and it's really, really good for you. They have tons of vegetables here in Japan. And I'm learning more and more that like corn is super full of sugars, and even potatoes is full of sugars and stuff. I know that stuff is still good for you because they're veggies, but the high quantities that we eat them back in North America can be not a good thing. So anyways, that's a whole other thing. I love all food equally. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so the next thing is excellent and convenient public transportation. Holy smokes. It takes me maybe 20 minutes to get to my school in my school's office from my apartment, and it's across the city. Like, it is extremely convenient here. They run on the minute, every minute. They're just like, they're on top of things. Even the buses here are really, really good. And because it's Kyoto, the bus and transit system actually has the information in English too. So when the lady on the intercom comes on, she'll be like, Nijo Station. This is the stop for Nijo Castle or whatever. So yeah, that's like super duper nice. And in places where they don't have a lot of English, I'm not sure if the transit system has English or not. So anyways, yeah. Okay, so the next is life in Japan. Oh, and another thing about the transit system is it's actually quite affordable. So in Kyoto, to take the bus, it's 230 yen, which is about $2.30, and that's anywhere. And on the trains, it depends how far you go on how much it's going to cost you. So that's really, really nice. So if you only have to go one stop, it'll cost you $1 or whatever, $1 or whatever. Okay, so... Oh, wait. What am I doing? Oh, here we go. Okay. I kind of confused myself here. So the next thing for the good thing about living in Japan is hanging out with other ALTs. It is so, so cool to hang out with other people who are doing the same thing you're doing, because you can talk to each other about it, you can nag to each other about it, you can like uplift each other, you can go out and do things. Like the ALTs here in Kyoto, they are so freaking cool. Like, they are the coolest people that I've ever met in my entire life. And, well, no, that's not true. Everyone I meet is super cool. But anyways, yeah, no, they're really great people, and they will help you in a heartbeat. So that's really great. The next thing is learning about Japan. So I discovered that one of my bus stops is like a huge, significant historical place. And I didn't know that. And I learned that from another ALT. So it's really neat to discover about culture in your area kind of thing and learn about Japan. The next is you get to experience more than what most tourists do. And this is because you can, you know, if your Japanese teacher wants to invite you to a hanami, which is basically like a picnic under the cherry blossom trees when they're blooming, you can go and do that. And, well, that's kind of something tourists can do too. But there's other things, like secret restaurants and back alleys that nobody knows about that are really, really good. And, like, just neighborhood things that you wouldn't know unless you talk to the locals. So that's something really, really great. The next is teacher dates. So you can actually go on adventures with your teachers. And like if a teacher wanted to invite you to climb a mountain or something, you can be like, yeah, okay, let's do this. So that's a cool thing. The next is you may be able to show you, oh, okay, this is really cool, and I've done this. So, two of my schools, I talked to them and asked them if it would be all right if visiting, like my friends that were visiting could visit those schools and I can give them a tour of their school. And it's the principal that you talk to about this, and the principals were both like, yeah, okay, cool. So after school had finished, my friends showed up and I was able to tour them around a Japanese school. And some of the kids were still there, so they got to like practice their English with my friends, and that was like the coolest thing ever. So that's another really, really cool thing. Sorry, that should have been in the school one. I apologize. Okay, so the next one is Japan is a beautiful and clean place to live. So they are always cleaning everything. Every morning, the old ladies come out of their little houses and they sweep up all the things in the gutter, usually like dead leaves, and then they hose down the cement to make it clean or whatever, and they do this every day, and everybody takes part. I've seen people walking along the river, and if they see a piece of plastic on the ground, it doesn't matter if it's not theirs. They're gonna pick it up and they're gonna like throw it out at the nearest convenience store or whatever, right? Like they care about their environment. And like, because Japan's in that perfect area between cold and hot, you get a lot of really cool plants and animals and just things. Like, it's really, really cool. Okay, next is convenience stores. You could actually live out of the convenience stores here in Japan because they are actually quite healthy. They have a variety of foods from every food group, including like salads and dairy and meats and carbs and everything. And like they also have bad food, which is like the ramen and the chocolate and the chips and all that stuff. So if you watch yourself, you could actually live out of a convenience store. Okay, next is 100 yen shops are actually really great. I don't know about around the world, but in Canada, dollar stores are so bad. Like the products that you get there, they last for maybe a day and then they break. But here in Japan, dollar stores actually have good stuff that actually lasts. Okay, next is you learn manners and patience. So that's something really integrated in Japanese society is mannerisms and being respectful in large groups of people and learning how to use the line, which is super important. Like you stand in line for anything, you just wait for your turn, that's it. Next is Japanese festivals. You get to see and experience Japanese festival food, festival culture, festival music, festival fireworks. Like there's some really neat things out there. Okay, so sorry, I'm realizing this video is almost 20 minutes now, so I'm gonna go a little bit faster. So the in-between of life in Japan, number one I have is other tourists. You will find that you will meet really great tourists who are really informative and cool and they want to hang out and learn about Japan. And then you will also find that there are loud and rowdy and rude tourists who just like want nothing but to destroy the world or something. Like they're horrible. So you have to deal with that. Especially in Kyoto, anyways, like we get some awful, awful tourists, but we also get some great tourists. Next, pizza is expensive. I love pizza, and it's expensive. Yeah, that's kind of my, yeah. Okay, anyways, next, oh, wrong page. Where is it? Oh no. Oh yeah, okay, next, the sun sets really, really early. So if you wanted to kind of plan things after school, you might have to plan for being in the dark. Like if you wanted to go visit a temple or something, it would be dark by the time you get there. So the sun sets really early, just keep that in mind. Because back in Canada, it sets at, like, in the summer, it could set around, like, 11 at night, which is kind of crazy now that I think about it. Okay, so your apartment might not always be furnished. So we had to buy all of our furniture, tables, chairs, couch, all that stuff. And that can be costly, but it's also nice because you get to decorate, you get to choose how your apartment looks. The next is shopping. Holy crap, shopping. Dude, okay. Japan is like shopping heaven, but your wallet's crying. It's begging for mercy and you're like, no. You just buy like way more things. So anyway, shopping is both good and bad in Japan. And the last thing I have on my list here is seasonal flavors, fruits, foods, etc. So basically, Japan has amazing seasonal things, but they're only seasonal. So you have to get them when they're out, and then when they're out, they're gone until next season. So that's something that kind of bothered me, and especially because I love fruit. And there's a lot of seasonal fruits here. Like strawberries are only out in Kyoto during the winter and spring and fall, but not in the summer. And I totally get it. Like they probably grow them off their lands, and that's when they harvest them and stuff, right? So, anyways, so that's the list that I have for living in Japan. Hopefully it enlightened you in some way. But if you have any questions or comments or anything, please feel free to leave them. I am by no means an expert on anything here or anything ever. So yeah, please feel free to enlighten me too if you've ever had experiences in Japan and stuff. So again, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye!